Welcome to Biz Dev Live with Cameron Toth. We're going to get into it today. This is Max Bovin. He has been handling video production for Toth Event Staffing and for the newly launched Care Social Agency branding for us. I'm really excited to interview him today. We're going to get into it right after we get into the Biz Dev theme. Stick with me and we'll be right back.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
So thanks for being here, Max. Filmmaker, photographer, marketing, does it all. Tell us a little bit about your background, what you've done in the past, and why somebody would want to work with you right now.
Sure thing, Cameron. Thank you again for having me on today. It is honestly a huge pleasure being here. And yeah, my background originally started as a filmmaker, and over these past couple of months, it's expanded into much more, such as photography, as you mentioned, and now Photoshop and media marketing. It has been an amazing journey these past couple of years, ever since I graduated, and I'm really just focusing on expanding my company to be the go-to media production company in Westchester County, and then eventually in New York State.
That's awesome. And I know you have a YouTube channel. You finished doing like a fantasy action. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know it's got like the Japanese roots.
Yeah. So as you know, my art style really comes from a lot of Japanese anime, a lot of old school samurai films. That's a lot of the content I grew up on as a kid. So I have a very specific style. It's very action oriented. It has a lot of deep themes and philosophies.
So what's the name of it, and how can people find it on YouTube?
Sure thing. So the name of the series is called Ascension. It's based off of a Japanese anime called Gundam. If you have boys or you have little kids that love Avengers movies, they're gonna have a blast with it. Parents, definitely give it a watch. Make sure you're okay showing your kids this. Can get a little heavy, but it's a lot of fun. There's 5 episodes on my YouTube channel, which is simply Max Bovin. So Cameron, I'm sure you'll provide them with the link.
Yeah, we'll drop it in. One of the things, and the reason I wanted to bring that up, because I know you're doing so much, and a lot of the money making stuff that you're doing, like right now you're doing real estate. So the fact that you have some range and some different experience, so you can do some different things, is really incredible. Some of the stuff that you put together for me in terms of the editing has been really sharp. Tell us about some of the current projects that you're working on with the real estate and the commercial photography and video.
Right. So right now, real estate has become a huge selling point of my business. There are a lot of people that want to move out of the city, and they want to be able to look at properties that are on the market, but they want to do it from the safety of their home. So what's become very essential for the real estate business has been doing virtual walkthroughs, where I take my camera, I throw it on my gimbal, and I show the whole property as if you're walking through it from top to bottom. So people get a sense of the space of the property they could be moving into, and they get to see the area. So they can do that all from the safety and comfort of their homes. I've been doing a lot of photos for real estate, and it's been taking off phenomenally. It's really amazing how real estate has pretty much been the bulk of my work these past couple of months.
That's awesome. And what is a great way for people to find you on the web?
So the best way they could find me, there's 2 ways. I have my website, which is www.bovinsvideoproduction.com. It's Bovins as in plural. And the other way is at my Instagram, which is @Bovins Video Production.
So let's talk about your background. How did you get into video? Like, why are you passionate about this? Why is this something that you like doing?
This is always a fun story. It's rich with history. So from age 2, I grew up watching movies with my dad, exposed me to the most violent movies, and that's it right there. Yep. He exposed me to some of the most violent movies.
The most violent movies.
The most violent movies, which from a parenting standpoint isn't the best thing, but you know, I took in the way the camera moved and everything, and the way that they just put all the effects together, and I ate it up. And eventually I did my own research where I was so tired of watching the movie for like the 65th time that I went in and broke down how they made the movie. And then from the age of 4, I told my mom after watching Jurassic Park the 100th time, Mom, I wouldn't do that scene that way. And she knew, you're going to be a filmmaker. So it became this whole path of going to film school and high school, because my high school didn't offer film.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're doing it now, but I went to the Jacob Burns Film Center, which is in Pleasantville. And
so for anybody local that's watching, that's a very, very local spot.
It's a really amazing place. They show a whole bunch of old movies there, and I got thrown into a mix with a bunch of young, talented filmmakers. We made our own films, and that was my foot in the door, meeting other talented filmmakers and wanting to pursue a career in filmmaking and video production. That's
awesome. And so where did that kind of lead? So what was the next steps after that? Because that's a pretty cool opportunity, and on the local level too. That's nice.
No, it was awesome. At that point, I was in high school, and I was actually trying to do Ascension back in high school.
Okay.
And I had a big, ambitious vision for this project, and my friends didn't really see eye to eye with me on that. So it was a lot of trial and error, and then eventually I was just making my own short films, and I eventually enrolled into LIU Post. For those of you who don't know, it's CW Post, but now they go to now they call it LIU Post, which is out in Brookville, Long Island. And I went there for 4 years, studied video production, and got my bachelor's in 2017 for video production.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's nice too, I think we're somebody that you're working with on video to kind of have that young look into it, sort of seeing what people are into now. One of the reasons that we partnered up was that, the understanding around video is the thing that people look at. How did that play out in your education? Your recent graduate, but 2000s being what is your generation? Generation Y.
Generation Y. I'm not an expert on that, so don't quote me. But Generation Y.
Yeah.
That confidently.
And then
could be wrong.
And so you're growing up. There's video all around you. You're growing up in video generation. There's video playing on your phone. Obviously, movies and all that stuff that folks even of my generation X have grown up with. But the fact that it's just you're not getting a lot of your video now from, and even as I don't know, even 5 years ago, a lot of stuff has been moving away from cable television, and it's phone ads and that sort of thing. So how has that sort of informed your education on video?
When I was at Post, they didn't really educate us too much on the significance of social media, such as YouTube. It was really more of the behind the scenes craft. And not to knock on Post, they provided me a great education. I think it would have been awesome to learn more about, what is the significance of video aside from the art form. But behind the scenes, I was already educating myself on
you're growing
social media content.
You have it all around.
I grew up with some of the first generation YouTubers like Epik Mealtime, Smosh, people remember Equals3,
and I love that you're dropping these names, and I have no idea who you're talking about, right?
People between the age of 25 and 30 will know older generation YouTubers. Even PewDiePie. PewDiePie is the most popular. He's been around since the very beginning. And
I've heard of PewDiePie, but I couldn't tell you what the draw and the attraction is at all.
He has no real set description because he pretty much does a lot of things, but gaming would be the best way. And that's how a lot of kids, I think, are now actually getting into video productions because they like watching their favorite YouTubers play games, which some people think is weird, but they're really sitting down to watch the character, and they're sitting down to get like the one-on-one experience and interaction with kind of their friend.
I thought it was weird until I was playing Call of the Wild, Legend of Zelda on the last iteration of Nintendo, and I was getting stuck in parts, and I was going to YouTube to find out how to get past the next puzzle or thing, and I was like, oh, I see what the draw is, because you can get sort of sucked into like people doing moves and crazy stuff in the game. So I can sort of see that. One of the challenges, which I think it's cool that you're talking about it, like, you know, there's so much stuff. I just got exposed because I'm going out Boy Scouting with my 12-year-old. Some of the older boys, they were playing this game Among Us, and sort of interesting, sort of off the video track, but just sort of speaks to like we're out camping and like the way that folks are engaging on through their phones. So it speaks to this kind of new generation of like, they were playing a game, but it was on a phone, not what the Boy Scouts is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be getting away from technology and enjoying nature, but into the night around the campfire, they got their phones out and they start doing this. But one of them said, well, you know, I said, well, where would I find this game? And so sort of the interesting thing, because I'm techie-ish, I know my way around like some camera equipment, some computers and stuff. That, you know, they're saying, oh, you get this game on Steam. And now that they said it, I heard it another day, and it's apparently a big deal. Had no idea, no clue.
Right. So yeah, the way that it sounds is you have a whole new generation getting younger and younger, just being able to pick up technology and get so much more familiar with it compared to you and I, because I have a knack for being able to pick up new tech, play around with it for a good month, and being able to use it like it's same tool I've been using for the past year. And now as a generation gets younger and younger, they're exposed to new technology more and more and more, and they're curious. So they'll go online. I think this is also the way YouTube is transformed compared to like how it was back in 2009.
Yeah.
It was just about posting cute little videos of your cat or dog doing something silly. And now it's one of the leading platforms for advertising and showcasing tutorials. That, to me, that's what people need to understand, especially now in 2020, is YouTube is our new form of cable. And that's how we're getting information. And, you know, as a business owner, you want to be able to use YouTube to showcase your services and your product. And that's how these kids are being able to pick up their Switch and just connect it to Bluetooth. Because I know when you get something new, the first thing is, how can I connect to Wi-Fi?
And this is the thing, and this is why I want to kind of go down this path, because everything is video. You're getting your information from video, and that goes across all platforms, including, you know, your newspapers and CNN. It's so interesting. New York Times, which I subscribe to, they're pushing people onto Hulu, which is annoying to me because I paid for the platform, but they're pushing into video and they monetize that as well. And it's on a different monetary track. But the idea that people are so much more engaged by video than by the written word. And then you look at platforms like LinkedIn, where you can have organic reach, and TikTok, which, you know, is in the news so much lately for political nonsensical reasons, but should be in your newsfeed for the ability to not only get stuff out there for those people that are open and excited about putting content out on TikTok, but it's a great place to produce. It's software that can help you produce really great video. I think that, you know, our partnership plays on this idea. You know, you can be a creator. I shoot videos every day. doing this Biz Dev Live thing. You set up the webcam. It's sort of a simple thing. But there's also this, okay, when do I hire a professional, and what kind of reach or ability does that allow me to get with these platforms? How does that allow me to better express and put my product out there? And for anyone that sort of thinks, oh, I can just do this with my phone. Yes, you can. Yeah. And I say this message every day. But there is a difference between somebody just using their phone on TikTok and Jason Derulo, who, beautiful thing around his TikToks. Definitely check him out, because he's doing it very, very big on TikTok, as well as Will Smith, who's been.
I was just going to say that his TikToks blow my mind because they're so layers deep. You're not just watching a dance video. Right. You're watching a dance video with special effects, with optical illusions, and then he also gets a whole bunch of talented creators working with him, I believe.
Yeah, he's using every strategy, big strategy, I think, in the book, in terms of great video production, great storytelling, tell some great stories, which I think, no matter what your video production level, if you're not telling a good story in what you're doing, it's a waste of time, right? If you're just sitting up there and you're doing your pitch, I don't know that that's necessarily something that needs a professional production around. Whereas if you're telling a story and you're adding snippets and you got post-production pieces where you're bringing things together, I think that's really where your services come in.
Right.
Play, yeah.
You also mentioned it. You name dropped Will Smith. Part of it has to deal with personality, and I earlier said PewDiePie. Personality is huge, and you could have a great idea, but if your audience isn't engaged with you, the character, that's why they're constantly coming back. If they're not engaged with you, you're gonna lose them. So, the most important thing is being the best version of you in front of the camera and having a game plan.
How do you help people with that?
It's honestly based off of, it's kind of a philosophical, we go a little bit into philosophical approach. Be the best version of you that you want to be, and then take that and show it to the world.
Right. Well, and I was thinking that, that's the magic of video, is that you would have somebody say their lines, go through their piece, and then you get to create that best version of them.
Right. I'll give you a good example. So last night I was filming at the New York Public Library for the Clancy Moving Company. They were moving some old items into the library, and I was doing a little documentary piece about the behind the scenes. And I got my friend who was leading the operation in front of the camera. It was his first time in front of the camera. He wasn't feeling too comfortable, and he ran through his lines a couple of times. Nothing was scripted. It really just flowed naturally. And I told him that was good. Now pretend like the camera isn't here and just tell me what we're doing today.
Right.
And he switched up significantly. He was just so much more passionate about it. He was smiling. He was talking to me. He wasn't talking to the camera. And that's the approach I like to do with everybody. Tell me what we're doing.
Yeah.
Tell me what we're doing. Tell from the heart.
Well, I think that's great advice for somebody that's sort of, especially hesitant and nervous about getting in front of the camera. Just pretend you're talking to your best friend. One of the good things, and certainly something that I've learned, is that you want to speak into the camera. If you're on a Zoom call, it can be a little tough. You want to look at a person's face, but if I'm looking at the person's face, then you're actually seeing me looking down versus me looking into the camera. And then there's that illusion that I'm looking directly at you. Certainly not the case on Zoom, because if I'm looking at you, then I'm looking down, right? But if I'm looking at the camera, I look like I'm paying attention to you, and that's something that I know you're looking for from people to look into the camera. But there's that idea of like, oh, it's nerve-wracking. I feel pressure. I certainly, we're getting ready to do this set and shoot today. We're going to shoot a few things, taking advantage of Max being in the office to do this interview. But I was nervous this morning because it's like, oh, I know Max is coming. I got to have my stuff together. We got to film. It's interesting that once I'm here, though, especially now that I've gotten into the practice of doing the Biz Dev Live every day, I get a lot more comfortable because once the camera's on, I'm just like, I've let it go. And I think that's a big part of acting and being in front of the camera, is letting go of that tension so that you can actually connect with the people that are on the other end of the camera.
And it's funny you say this. Can you imagine last year when I was doing this on my series, trying to get everything together with like three crew members and then a whole bunch of actors, and I'm sitting there wondering, how am I going to do this?
Right.
Everybody's like looking to me for all this wisdom and knowledge, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope I have enough bagels for everybody.
Video production, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but as soon as that camera is rolling, that weight is gone. That weight is gone, and now you're in the zone, especially if you've been doing this camera work for a long time, then it becomes just casual. It's just a whole weight is lifted off your shoulders, and it's just natural.
That's awesome. And when you were shooting a series, you know, where were you feeling most comfortable? Because that's a big project. I mean, it's
In my room, editing in my room, editing in my room in my pajamas.
Whenever you were dealing with other people, it was stressing.
Naturally, when you're working with a bigger production and you're not paying anybody, it becomes more of a passion project, and you really have to be everybody's best friend. And I'm not saying that pretend to be everybody's best friend. The whole purpose of this is to really make strong bonds with the people that will be timeless. And that's at least my approach with it. Because everybody, when they get on set with me, we're family, because we all have the same goal in mind. We're walking the same journey, and we have an end goal that we need to get to, but we can't do it by ourselves. And we all have realized that. The same thing is with my business, and when I'm doing work with other business providers or other service providers, we all have the same goal in mind. We want to be the next Apple, Microsoft. At least that's what we tell ourselves when we have big goals, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that one of the key things right now, if somebody wants to be a big player in any individual market, is this idea of understanding the value that video can bring to you, getting comfortable with it. It's certainly not something that I think somebody can pick up yesterday and be super pro today. It's certainly a little bit easier with all the tools now. You can pick up your phone and just go to town with getting started in video, whereas 10, 20 years ago, for you just to get into sort of a high quality, high definition sort of thing would have been a huge investment in camera equipment. If you wanted to do any kind of post-production stuff, text titles on the screen, any kind of effects on the film would have been, $10,000 minimum. Now you can do that by picking up your phone and going to town on, even your photo app on your phone has certain capabilities, from time lapse. I mean, I think about like time lapsing, which is even in the last couple of years, something that, now you can do a stop motion kind of thing on your phone, whereas I don't know what it would have taken 10, 20 years ago.
I mean, I still have the iPhone 4, and I've seen just how the selfie camera itself has changed to the iPhone XS, which is the one I currently have. It's like night and day. It's completely noticeable. And that was just like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you look at how much more advanced technology has gotten and how it's easier for people to use. And actually piggybacking off of what you said earlier about being able to pick up the technology and just use it, I think my mom was a good example of that. I showed her how to use her phone for her social media. And, within a year, she's picking up angles, she's studying lighting, how she can get the best visuals for her content. It's actually really funny that, now she's becoming this, her own type of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is she doing that she's?
So she's an Arbonne consultant. She is very much an advocate for healthy lifestyle, healthy eating. One needs to coincide with the other. So if you're not eating well, then the products that she's selling are not going to work.
So how's she using video in her business?
So she actually used me as her poster boy for a little bit because I use her products and I'm using vegan plant-based protein and like clean cleanser on my face. And she takes pictures of me and she showcases the positive results about it, because everybody wants quick results on everything. And like we talked about, these things take time. And I've shown her how she can take proper photos of her little setups, of her little lazy Susan, of her protein powder, and how to make it look nice and presentable. And then when she's doing a live stream,
have you got her using the white light box yet?
We're actually talking about getting that. That's the next.
And that's something that's incredible. Amazon, the ability to get a lot of these professional photo stuff. 10, 20 years ago, you're gonna have to go to a B&H photo, some kind of photo store, or special online resource. Who knows what you're gonna pay? Who knows if you're getting ripped off or not, right? And so it's a lot of the technology and the advancements is democratize that source. And that being said, there's a lot of people that can do a really mediocre job, right?
Yeah.
And then there's folks that actually have the training and the ability to not only do some great camera work and design, but also do the post-production, which you've been amazing on, especially on post-production, just being able to pull things together. I know for myself, I decided to go live because film it, cut, it's out there. I'm not worried about it. And post-production is tough, and especially if you want to do things quickly, it's really tough. I know you got to reset the camera.
Yeah.
I can stall. So he's got to go reset the cameras. One of the things that we're doing today is we're also filming BizDev Live so that he can cut up some post-production stuff. And this is something that you can do at home with things that you're doing and documenting the process. You can film with one camera. Most families, if you got somebody else in the family, got another phone. I know for Toth Event Staffing, we moved from a landline to a mobile phone just so that we had that ability to move outside the office with a phone, but it also gave us another high quality camera because of the way that these phones are so awesome with camera work these days. Talk to us about some of the businesses that you've helped with commercials. I know you've been involved in political campaigns. Talk to us about some of the other projects and the way that video has helped their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rich history of various businesses. So one of the first businesses I started working with was Transform Fitness in Tuckahoe, and I was working alongside Frank D'Agostino, who has moved on to other projects, and I now help him with his barbershop, doing his advertising for his barbershop. So I was going in, doing a lot of one-on-one. Yeah, no problem. I'll keep going. So I was doing a lot of one-on-one client testimonials about how they were happy with the gym trainer relationship and what they were doing in order to get awesome results with their clients. And then when I was working with Frank, I was doing a lot of fun, creative work where I was making him look almost super powered, but the videos had a deeper message that he was trying to convey about purpose. And that's what I really liked about working with Frank D'Agostino. I got to really come up with a theme, and there was always a topic of discussion. So it was never just, okay, we're going to come up with something crazy and wacky. I mean, sometimes the videos were just crazy, but when I was working with Frank, it was always to tell a quick little story. And he was trying to communicate to a generation of people that were following his content to have a purpose, have a calling, and follow that. And that's something that I really connect with. And then when I worked with when I worked with the real estate and with the campaigns, I was able to take a lot of what I learned with filming with Frank, being able to get creative, the production process, and applying that to the campaigns and to a lot of these big shoots, like the one I had last night. It's every single shoot that I've done, I've taken away some valuable piece of knowledge and applied that to the next shoot. So I'm able to become a better filmmaker and advance further with my career.
Yeah, it's the power of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about some of the results that you've seen from some of this work that you've done. Like, what are things that you've seen that have come out of it? What have people talked about as that video or that video series doing for their campaign, income, whatever results they were looking for?
So when I was doing the video advertisement for a barber company in New Rochelle called Style Society, I was doing a lot of their video content, and it started with people just coming in and showing off their haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And they were showing the different services that they provided, like black mask, facials, and I was doing their parties, and they had a following, and it's really cool. They had TV. They currently have TVs in their barbershop, and they show all my videos there all the time. And it's really cool because I can go in there and be like that video? I did that. So it's a little bit of flexing, but it's like that. It's cool, right? And they were actually,
and it lends that professionalism to the piece because they have that sharp, well done video that's a part of you walk in the door and you see them. I can picture it that's something that's, man, I haven't even seen it. Right?
And
so,
not only that, but I'd like to think it somehow helped a little bit. But when they were competing for Best of Westchester, they actually got nominated for the best barbershop in Westchester County, and they actually came out as #1.
That's awesome.
Which I felt honored because I was part of that process and showcase what was happening behind the scenes.
Well, this is the thing. I think this is why I'm advocating for businesses, whether they're getting involved with me on video strategy or using somebody like yourself on production. When you focus and you're putting your talents on camera, it's demonstrating and it's showing the world. And there's usually a drive. Okay, now I've put this production together. I'm going to put it out there in the world. And by putting it out there, a lot of great things are going to happen. If you don't put it out there, it's guaranteed that not much is going to happen, right? So that's, I think, the #1 piece where video really has its power is because you're putting yourself out there. And I find the process of putting your business on video, it really makes you focus and understand, like, hey, what are the things that look sharp? What are the things that really drive value? Because we understand what we want to watch, and we understand we don't want to go and see something that's going to waste our time. So it really forces you to think about your business in a different way when you're putting it on camera.
Right.
I also just thinking about this, I was going into a business owner's shop, and it's one thing when you walk in with just sort of the customer, but it's another thing when you come in with the lens and you're capturing, it makes you think about the space differently. It's a great thing to sort of revise and edit whatever you're doing because the lens captures all, right?
Right. Always. And that goes into having a game plan before you go into a shoot.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of people that like to do run and gun, and run and gun is great, but you need to have a plan. You need to have some kind of plan, or else you're just going to be in for a huge mess. I always like to, that's why part of my process when I work with people is I love to talk with them about what their vision is for the video. Yeah. And that's just basic pre-production. You always talk with the producer, the one who's financing the shoot, and you talk to them and try and get their vision, try and get across what their vision is, and see how you can attempt that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that understanding the vision for your business, for your product before you get involved with your video just helps to focus you and direct you on your course. I think that process is really key for business development. I love it. Talk to us about some of the things that you're planning to do in the future.
Well, from a creative standpoint, I actually was on pause with doing any kind of independent filmmaking just because Ascension had fried me completely and I needed to take a break because I was just drained emotionally and physically because it was just a nonstop process. But now we're actually working on a couple of projects, one of which will actually plan on pitching to Netflix. I don't want to go into too much detail about the story, but it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a really gritty action piece, and I'm just really excited to actually get to finishing the script and then getting the cast put together for it. And then from a business standpoint, I have noticed that people have started booking me again for weddings. And I've managed to link up with a number of different realtors. So now I have a little circle of realtors that always have properties for me to shoot. And my goal right now is just to keep the wheel spinning, constantly link up with new people, and just make that network circle bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've actually recently expanded my team a little bit. I partnered with Westchester Blogger on Instagram.
Yep.
And as you saw, I was starring in an episode of Westchester Blogger where I was at Ben's, the kosher deli in Scarsdale. And
Yep.
It actually was more of a surprise that I was going to be in front of the camera. So now I'm going to be starring in each episode of Westchester Blogger Productions as the spokesperson for each episode. And that's going to be awesome. So I'm going to be in front of the camera a lot more, which means
awesome.
I have to build up and get the excitement going, which honestly comes very natural to me.
Well, and as anybody can see, you're photogenic, so there's that side of it, and you can be a director / actor going forward.
And it's funny,
right?
because when we first met, you really didn't expect that out of me because I'm a very quiet person when you first get to know me. Yeah. But once we've established a good relationship, I'm completely out of my shell, and I'm the most social person.
And I don't think that's completely abnormal, right? I think a lot of people are that way, but I think
especially artists,
right? There's definitely the introverts and more extroverts. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Cameron's extrovert," but I definitely have certain things that I feel very introverted on. Going into a crowded social network, social networking advice, social distance. I'm confusing myself, but I'm not using the right expression. But before, when it was social network, we walk into a room and we're networking. That idea of walking up to somebody that is completely a stranger to you and introducing yourself and talking about your business is something that is very difficult for me. But it's
like working out. You have to do it consistently.
Right. Well, there's that aspect of it that you can get better over time. I've been doing this for a lot of years.
Yeah, you have way more experience than I do.
So when it comes to walking into a room, even though I've done it many, many times, and I can force myself to do it, it's one of those places where I can certainly say that's an uncomfortable place for me. And as much as I do it and I can force myself to do it, it's a place of that I don't necessarily feel that much more comfortable. But what I will say on the video side and social media side is when you put yourself out there, it's really interesting because then people start coming up to you and they're like, "Oh, I know you." And you know what? I'm very comfortable with people that know me. So you come up to me and you say, "You know me, and you know this little thing about me." It's a great conversation starter. It's a great place to begin with folks, and it makes that process easier. So if you're like me and you're a little uncomfortable walking into a room, a great way is to be on this side of the camera, put yourself out there, and you will be a little bit more comfortable walking into spaces. You may not be necessarily a star, but if you're somebody that's known in your local community, if you're known in that segment of the industry, that sort of thing. It certainly makes your job a lot easier, both on marketing and walking up to people, or even having people walk up to you and broach those conversations.
Right, of course.
I wanted to talk to you about something that I think is really good for folks that, are watching this, talking about business development, because in terms of you saying, I'm working on this thing for Netflix, weddings are picking up, real estate, now I'm in front of the camera. I think that diversifying the business and having those different ways that you can go with it is really important for any small business. So I just want to commend you on that, because I think that's something that, as anyone builds their personal portfolio of what they do, whether they work for a corporation or not, or they actually have a small business or work, with a company that they own, that kind of thing of making sure that you don't only have one thing that you offer, one thing that you sell, is really important.
Right, because then you become a one-trick pony, and it makes it very difficult for you to be able to adapt. And if there's anything I've learned within these past couple of months, is that I'm a super adaptable person. I picked up photography and I picked up Photoshop, and my brother and I joke about this a lot. I was telling him, there's no way I'm picking up photography. I'm not doing it. You can't pay me to do it, but now you can't pay me to do it. And I recently put together a huge library of Photoshop advertisements for a CBD company in New Jersey, Waltz and Wellness. It was a little bit intimidating at first, because what I had envisioned was something very complex. Then when you actually do it, it's not that bad, and it just flowed. It just flowed naturally. And, it's just about doing it, learning from your error, going back and making it better. Yeah.
I think learning, is something that comes into every business, and I like that you're you can't fill a full cup, right? You can't put more into a full cup. So having that approach that you're always learning something is something that's important for every business. I really appreciate you doing this with me today, Max. I'm looking forward to the stuff that we're going to produce and create today. So look out for more video from Toth Event Staffing and Care Social Agency and all the other projects that we're working on. We're going to shoot some behind the scenes kind of stuff with Max today, so that should be fun as well. So he'll be dropping that, and definitely pay attention to the YouTube channel that is in the comments. I'll also drop YouTube down below that you can find Max Bovin on. You can also find his LinkedIn, and I also threw his website there on the description. So if you're on Facebook, go one on the sides, and if you're YouTube, go down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Max, I'm going to give you the last word today. Talk to us about where people can find you and who you want to work with.
Right. So as Cameron mentioned, you can find me at my website, www.bovinsvideoproduction.com. You can find me on Instagram at Bovins Video Production, and you can follow me you can subscribe on YouTube at Max Bovin. Plain and simple. No fancy gimmicky name here, just Max Bovin. And those are pretty much every single one of the platforms you can follow me on.
All right, I'm going to let you say goodbye to the folks, and we'll take off. We'll see you tomorrow.
Guys, cheers.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron